All right, AI government contractors, welcome. Welcome to another Tuesday live stream. I see that there are about five people. Okay. If you're not shy, just let me know who you are in the chats. I'd like to know who is in the house. Let me just get myself situated over here. I now, I'm sure you've already seen the title. Today we're going to be talking about something a little bit different. We're going to be talking about sources sought and AI, and how you can possibly use artificial intelligence tools to submit a response for a sources sought contract, and how you can make this easy. In as much as the sources sought doesn't end up in a contract or a contract win, there are many advantages to sources sought, and that's what we're going to be discussing today. But yeah, let's see. We have some people in the house. I see you. Hello, BC Nelson. Welcome, welcome. See some people in the house. Like I said, we're going to start at 7:30 sharp. We're going to be talking about sources sought. Now, if you've watched some of the videos in the past, there was a time where I would say that sources sought should be ignored. Well, my position has changed, and my position can change. But where my position will not change is using artificial intelligence tools to make the process simpler. My position is not going to change as far as using these artificial intelligence tools to reduce the administrative burden that you go through when bidding on government contracts. Hello, Zinni. Zinni made it to the house today. Hi, Zinni. Welcome, welcome to the live stream. Guys, wow. Today we're going to be talking about sources sought, and by my time it's 7:29. So I want to lay out how this live stream is going to go. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to discuss the advantages, or rather answer the question on why should we go after sources sought? What's the reason? And then in the next part of the live stream, I'm going to be showing you how to break down sources sought and possibly put something together. Now, I'm going to let you know, like full disclosure, I haven't created an exact system for breaking down sources sought or writing a response to a sources sought contract. I wanted to bring this to your attention today and kind of go through a rough sketch on how it would be like to break down these sources sought contracts and possibly create a response. So we're kind of going through the experience together. So let's get into it. It's 7:30 by my time, Eastern Standard, and we're going to talk about sources sought. Now, just confirm with me, everybody who is in the house. Audio, video, everything good. You can put a one in the chat. If it's not so good, you can put a two in the chat. But let me know that you can see me and you can hear me clearly. One, if you can see and hear me clearly. Two, if it's a bit choppy and you need some adjustments. Okay, good. I'm seeing a lot of ones in the chat. Fantastic. Let's talk about sources sought and why you should respond to sources sought. Number one, we're going to talk about market visibility and positioning. We're also going to talk about influence on requirements. Now, this is a funny one because anytime I talk about possibly influencing the requirements on a contract, some people think, well, how do you do that? How do you influence the requirements? Well, we're going to talk about that a little bit. Opportunity for clarification and understanding, reduce competition through set asides, and relationship building with the government. And I want to clarify that when I talk about relationship building, I don't really mean going to find the contracting officer and have coffee with them, but there's a way to build relationships with contracting officers, starting with sources sought. So let's get into a bit of that discussion. Now, market visibility and positioning. Now, by responding to these preliminary notices, right? An RFI or a sources sought is a preliminary notice. It's kind of the beginning of the life cycle of a solicitation. You put your company's name in front of the contracting officer and program managers early in the procurement cycle. If you've ever heard about the first mover's advantage, this is sort of the same principle where most people are thinking, I'm going for the opportunity. You are thinking, I'm going to help the government to actually create the opportunity. This is what responding to a sources sought could do. So, this ensures they are aware of your capabilities and solutions well before a formal solicitation is released, potentially giving you a competitive edge over those who wait until the request for proposal stage. Now, I'm not telling you to stop submitting bids for RFPs, but what I'm saying is that along with submitting bids for RFPs, you can now submit sources sought or RFIs to begin to give your company some market visibility and position yourself in front of the contracting officers at the preliminary stage of the solicitation. Okay, if we are clear on market visibility and positioning, can I just get a one in the chat? If this kind of makes sense to you, where, you know what, this is the beginning of this solicitation's life cycle. If I can submit some information and get in front of the contracting officer, my company could be known. So I'm seeing a couple of ones in the chat. Is there anybody who feels like, well, I don't think there's any market visibility or positioning here? I don't, just forget about the sources sought. If you have that thought, listen, I'm ready to hear you out. You can throw a two in the chat. Okay. I'm seeing mostly ones in the chat. So I want to believe that we are on the same page when it comes to market visibility and positioning. Fantastic. Now, let's talk about influence the requirements. Now, right off the bat, right off the bat, influence on requirements can sound very, hey, I'm going to speak to someone on the back end to sort of change the requirements or shift it in my favor. That's not what's going on here. This is what's going on. So during the RFI and sources sought phase, the government is often refining its acquisition strategy and requirements. Remember, RFI stands for request for information. Sources sought, this is the research stage. They're building out the scope of work. Vendors' input, as a vendor, your input can shape the scope of work. It can shape the specifications. It can shape the evaluation criteria. If your feedback is persuasive and credible, it may guide the government towards an approach that favors your product, service, or niche expertise. Now, let's let's bring this down to an example. Let's say there is an RFI for a landscaping project, 5 acres of land, and you submit your response to the RFI. And in your submission, you say something like this. And guys, I'm just thinking off the dome, okay? You say something like this. Well, in order to take care of about 5 acres of land, we have a special lawnmower that is electric, which helps to reduce the emission while taking care of this large space of land. Now, If that was one of the first things that they noticed in, or your response was one of the first responses to the RFI, it could shape some of the requirements, noting that, look, because we have such large space, we are going to want this project to be eco-friendly, and we're going to only take companies who have this special lawnmower XYZ. This is just an example of how you may have the ability to influence some of the requirements. Now, I see a question here from Gerald Shepard. Hope I got that right. Gerald Shepard. Can you do that as a middleman? Let's remember, first of all, that what we're doing is we are submitting a response for research. So the question on middleman is out of it. You can go ahead to, let's say you're submitting an RFI for this landscaping company I'm talking about. You can speak to a landscaping company and ask them for some information to add to your submission. But again, this is not a situation where you're letting them know that you can do the work. You're actually giving them information on what that kind of work could be. So, yes, you can do this as a middleman, but it's not really the cornerstone of submitting these sources sought. Now, if we're on the same page on influence on requirements, let me just know in the chat. Just throw one in the chat. Influence on requirements makes sense. And again, I would say this, it's because the scope of work is being developed. The first set of companies that are able to submit have the ability to influence what the scope of work is going to be when we go from a sources sought to an RFI or a complete solicitation. So that's the influence aspect of submitting a sources sought. But let's also look at the opportunity for clarification and understanding. And this one is key. Okay. When you submit a sources sought, you do have the opportunity to get on the call, with the contracting officers behind that particular request. And what is interesting about that conversation, because remember, with sources sought, the needs are not yet specifically spelled out. So that conversation you're having with the contracting officer, you are able to get clarification on what they really need. So the early exchanges allow you to gain insight into the agency's priorities, pain points, and constraints. By understanding what the government truly needs, you can tailor your eventual proposal more effectively. Additionally, the process can highlight gaps in your offering, promoting you to improve or adjust your solution prior to the official solicitation. What's going to happen here is simple. Your exchanges with the contracting officers at the point of the sources sought is going to give you insight on what they really need. And when that solicitation goes, or rather, when that sources sought goes from an RFI to an RFP, you have the ability to submit a proposal that is far more customized because you have what I'll call insider information, because you were able to get clarification from the contracting officer before the official solicitation was released. This is another benefit of submitting a sources sought response. If we're all clear on opportunities for clarification and understanding, can you just throw one in the chat? Let me know that we're clear on clarification and understanding. If we're not really clear on clarification and understanding, you feel like, I don't really think this is the right way to go about it, you can also throw two in the chat. You can let me know. I'm interested to know where you're coming from as well. Okay, I'm seeing a couple of ones in the chat. I'm getting the impression that it does make sense to submit a sources sought response or an RFI response and then get additional clarification and understanding about the needs, the pain points from the contracting officer. That initial exchange you're going to have at the phase of the sources sought or the RFI is going to be crucial for you to write a more customized proposal when it officially becomes a solicitation. Okay, so let's move on. Reduced competition through set asides. Now, this one is interesting. So, agencies sometimes use sources sought responses to determine if a procurement can be set aside for small businesses, specific social economic categories, or other targeted groups. If you qualify, your response could help shape a more limited competition pool that increases the chances of winning the eventual contract. Reduce competition through set asides. What happens here is quite interesting. Say you have two veteran owned businesses that bid on a contract, a sources sought contract. That set aside could now be set aside, for lack of better words, to those veteran owned businesses. So the first few sources sought responses that come in could shape the set aside that that contract would be when it eventually becomes a solicitation. So again, I want to let you know that this is not to say, well, I'm going to stop submitting bids for RFPs or RFQs. It's to say that you can now also add sources sought to your list of submissions. So this is really important for us to go through. And one of those benefits, again, is the reduced competition through set asides, because the first few sources sought responses that come in could shape the set aside of that particular contract when it eventually becomes a solicitation. Does that come in clear? Does that make sense? Let me know in the chat. You can throw one in the chat. Let me know. Does this aspect come in clear? The reduced competition, the fact that government agencies can decide to make a contract, a particular set aside, based on the sources sought responses that come in. So this is good information to have. I'm seeing a couple of ones in the chat. Fantastic. Fantastic. I like that we are on the same page. So what's next? Relationship building with the government. Now, I've heard a lot of people talk about how to build relationships with the government, going out for coffee dates and things like that. That is not what I know of. I'm going to talk to you about what I know and how to build relationship based on value, value first relationships, where the relationship is built out of a response that you have submitted, and the response is credible, and the relationship starts from there. Submitting well researched, constructive responses foster goodwill and trust. Agencies appreciate vendors who are proactive, knowledgeable, and solution focused. Over time, this can enhance your reputation and improve your standing in the eye of the contracting officials, making it more likely that they'll view your company as a credible partner. Now, first of all, many people know that sources sought wouldn't eventually lead to a contract win. It says so even on the contract while we're breaking it down. But if you take the time to submit a well researched, a solution focused proposal that can help the contracting officers to shape the scope of work. If you can get on some calls with the contracting officers after you've submitted the sources sought to get further clarification, you will be building a relationship with that contracting officer. And listen, you can use ChatGPT to write emails, you can use ChatGPT to write these responses, to do this research. But this is how you want to build a value based relationship where you can reach out on the sources sought in its initial phase before it becomes a solicitation and actually help the contracting officer to build out this solicitation or this eventual solicitation. So, this is value based relationship building, helping them to do research that could eventually lead to a solicitation, and perhaps your company will be considered at the end of it because you've been doing the work with the contracting officer at the beginning. Now, I don't want to paint a picture that you're going to be chatting up with the contracting officer and you guys are going to be buddy buddy. What might happen is that you're going to submit your response and they're going to let you know that they have received the response and they could reach back out for further clarification, or you could reach out and say, hey, I would like to hop on a call. I have a few more questions about the contract, and there are other things that I think could help with your research phase. You show initiative, you are proactive, but this is how to build that value based relationship. Now, if we're clear on relationship building with the government, throw one in the chat. Let me see you out there. Let me know that we are on the same page here. If you believe that this is a good way to build relationships with the government, you believe that it's a value-based relationship starting from a sources sought as opposed to maybe a coffee date or sending them gifts. I've heard things like this before. I believe in value-based. So I'm seeing a couple of ones in the chat. Let me just know. Throw one in the chat if you believe in this value-based style of relationships. And guys, what I'm working on right now is to build a system, a process that is repeatable, that is easy to execute for anybody who is interested in doing research for the government and submitting sources sought. I'm working on that right now. But today, I'm going to use ChatGPT almost in a scanty kind of manner. It may not be systemized, but we're going to break down a few sources sought and try to write a response for them and just see using some clear principles of prompting. So I believe that that's what we're going to do next. Let's break down a sources sought. But before I share my screen and show you what I have in store, I want to know. I think we have about 20 people right now. Out of the people in the chat, how many of you have written a proposal with AI? You've written a proposal with AI. Just throw a yes in the chat. Let me know. And if you've not, you can throw a no in the chat. If you've never written a proposal, you've never written any sort of proposal with AI, throw a no in the chat. I'm seeing a couple of yeses coming in. Okay, I see a no there as well. Okay, I see another no. I see another no. Daphne, Sharon, I see no. Timmy, I see no. Okay, not written a proposal with AI. I see, I see. I see a one there. I'm believing perhaps that's saying yes. Okay, okay, fantastic. Guys, I'm going to share my screen now, and it's going to be we're going to experience this together. I'm going to find a solicitation. Well, not a solicitation, a sources sought, excuse me. And we're going to break it down. Some of them don't even have documents, but let me share my screen here. Okay. And if you can see my screen, can you just throw a one in the chat? If my screen, you can see it clearly, throw a one in the chat. Let me know that you can see my screen. Okay. Let's see. We're going to go into all domains, contract opportunity. or select domains, contract opportunity. And then we're going to go to the notice type. So the notice type is sources sought. Now we have all the sources sought out here. Now let's see. Um, ground ambulance services in Lebanon. That's very interesting. Let's check it out. Let's see what this is all about. And just to confirm, this is a sources sought. Okay. And they need a response by the 20th of December. We have some time. Today is the 10th. So 10 days. And this is the description, and we have two attachments. Okay, so let's break this down. Now, when I see a description like this, the first thing I will typically do is I just like to copy the description, and I will ask ChatGPT to just break this down. Break this down. Tell me what this is about. Break this down. Then I'm going to paste the text. Okay, so the provided document is a sources sought notice, which is a request for information and planning purposes only, and not a solicitation for a contract. It's primarily issued to gather data from potential contractors about their capabilities. So you're understanding this. Helping veterans. Okay, cool. What's the purpose? The purpose is to conduct market research to decide whether to set aside a multiple award contract for various business sizes, including service disabled veteran owned business, small business, veteran owned small businesses, small or emerging small business firms, or large business firms. Okay. So they want to conduct research to decide whether to set aside multiple award contracts for various business sizes. Okay. So we know what the goal, what the purpose of this is for. Then the scope of work. So the VA seeks to establish a 5-year indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity contract for ambulance and wheelchair transportation services covering 9 counties in South Central Pennsylvania for the VA Pittsburgh healthcare system. The service is required 24/7, including all federal holidays. So we're getting really good information already just from a simple prompt that says, okay, something just happened. It froze a little bit. Can you just throw one in the chat if you can still see my screen and you can still hear me? I just want to make sure you can still see me and hear me because it froze a little bit right now. Okay, okay, good, good. Thank you. Now, so the VA is seeking to establish 5-year indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity contract for ambulance and wheelchair transportation services covering 9 counties in South Central Pennsylvania. Okay. And then these are the locations. All the locations have been listed. Response requirements. Okay, so interested firms should submit a written response, including a capability statement describing their business. So, guys, if you are part of the school community, you don't have a problem with submitting a capability statement. We have a very simple method of creating very impressive capability statements in our school community. So you don't have a problem with that. SAM.gov UEI, of course, business location. Okay, so social economic status, confirmation of capability to pick up and deliver all and drop off all our required locations. Okay, submissions. I'm going to ask ChatGPT something. What I'm going to ask ChatGPT. Actually, I'm not going to ask that question because I have not included the documents needed for the sources sought. So let's download the documents first. This is the performance work statement. And anytime I see a code like this, I just believe it's typically the document that talks about the contract. This one is a Word document, and yeah, it's a project overview. So I'm going to throw these two documents into ChatGPT here, and even though this is a sources sought, what I'm going to attempt to do here is to use the 5 step or the beginner friendly solicitation breakdown guide to break this down. And definitely, there would need to be a sources sought kind of guide as well. But let's start very simple. Provide the title, agency, and summary of the solicitation. Now, ChatGPT is going to know it's not a solicitation, and it says this sources sought notice, labeled with solicitation number, is issued by the Department of Veteran Affairs, specifically the Network Contracting Office located at the Coastalville VAMC. The notice is a market research tool to gauge the level of interest and capability amongst different socio-economic groups: service disabled, veteran owned small business, small or emerging small business firms, and large business firms, to determine the appropriate acquisition and set aside strategy for a 5 year indefinite delivery. Okay, so this is a basic summary of what this is all about. We're going to go in a bit deeper because we want to find out what are the eligibility requirements, what are the key deliverables, what are the objectives of this particular contract. So, same thing, copying and pasting into ChatGPT, reading and confirming, clarifying what we see. So the eligibility requirements for this contract, as detailed in the sources sought notice, are for businesses that fall under the specific socioeconomic categories. So if you fall under any of these, you can actually submit a response to this sources sought. And remember what the purpose and the goal was. They wanted to determine, okay? If you remember right here, the purpose. They want to conduct market research. That's what sources sought is all about. But what do they want to determine? Well, they want to decide whether to set aside a multiple award contract for various business sizes. So that's the real goal right there. Okay. So the objective is to ensure continuous, reliable, and timely ambulance and wheelchair transportation for the beneficiaries of the VA Pittsburgh healthcare system, to cover all required VAPHS locations in the specified 9 county area in South Central Pennsylvania, and to provide these services under 5 year IDIQ, which stands for Indefinite Delivery, Indefinite Quantity Contract, to facilitate the ongoing needs of the VA without necessity for frequent renegotiation or recontracting. Okay, fantastic. Let's move on to number 3. What are the deadlines for submission? How should this be submitted? Now, with doing this research, there are a few things that you want to consider. Now, first of all, let's see what the response here is. The deadline for submitting these responses for the sources sought, 10 a.m. Eastern, 24th of December. All interested firms are instructed to respond in writing. And guess what? This is the proposal format: capability statement, SAM.gov, SAM.gov UEI, business location, socioeconomic status, and operational capability. Confirmation of your firm's capability to pick up and drop off all the required locations as specified in the notice. Guys, I'm going to do a little bit of I'll call it a freestyle. I'm going to try to just create a response based on what I'm seeing here. But first, I'm going to attempt to find a company that possibly has this qualification. So I'm going to first to ChatGPT 4.0 and using ChatGPT's search feature, which is the globe that you can see here. Now, I want to make sure that we're still connected. Can we all see the globe right here on ChatGPT? When I click on it, it just turned blue. If you're still with me and you can see this, can you just throw a one in the chat? Okay, fantastic. Yes, we can see it. We can see it. Okay. Now, when you are searching for a subcontractor, when you are searching for other companies that you could possibly partner with to do the work, you want to use ChatGPT's search feature. This is under the paid subscription, and when you click on the 4O, you're able to open this up. Now, I'm going to ask ChatGPT again, freestyle. I want to find 5 companies in the area that have the ability to do the work. Find them and leave a link to their websites. Okay, so here are 5 companies in South Central Pennsylvania that provide ambulance and wheelchair transportation services. Okay, let's go to the first one that we have here. The first one is South Central EMS. Do they have a website that I could visit? Okay, cool. They do. Okay, so right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to assume that I am this company and we are going to be writing a response for this source is sought because we do have the capability to do the work. It's not yet a solicitation. We are in a position where we can potentially shape the scope of work of this particular source is sought. But let's go. And guys, again, this is just a freestyle. One, the point of today's live stream is that I wanted to bring it to your attention that you can now use artificial intelligence tools to turn in submissions for RFIs or sources sought. So let's see. It's just a freestyle here. I am looking to turn in a submission to help the government research this job. What would the table of contents for my submission look like? I'm trying to get ChatGPT to give me a clue on how this could be. Okay, guys, one thing I need to correct right now. What just happened here is this. ChatGPT searched the web to give me the answer to this prompt when realistically what I needed it to do was go back into the chat to give me the perfect answer. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn off the search feature. I'm going to put this prompt back in here, okay? And just to offset this mistake, I'm also going to upload the document into ChatGPT again to center its focus on what is in the document and not going into the web to search for the answer. So let's see what happens here. Now it's reading documents. Suggested table of contents. Okay, so to assist the government in researching the requirements for the Lebanon VAMC ground ambulance services, here is a recommended table of content on the sources sought and performance work statements. So, cover letter, purpose of submission, brief overview of your company's capability and interest in the project, executive summary, capability statement like they asked for, response to key questions. What's your UEI number, your business location, your social economic status, confirm your ability to meet all this technical approach, compliance and certs, staffing plan, quality assurance plan. Now, let me tell you this. ChatGPT is always going to give you a very, very long table of content, and it is not necessary. Okay? It is not necessary. If you hear not necessary, I mean not necessary. So, how do you shorten this? You can say, well, shorten this TOC to the top 5 items based on priority. Ooh, oh, that's okay. Cover letter, which is important, capability statement, technical approach, response to key questions, and compliance and certs. Guys, with this, what you have right now is a table of content that you can begin to use. Your cover letter, like your cover letter is brief overview of your company, purpose, and submission for this project. Remember, guys, I'm freestyling here. Let's see if I can use South Central EMS to put together a proposal. I'm going to grab the link and I'm going to say, hey, listen, this is my company. I'm going to throw the link in there and I'm going to say, well, I want to use this table of content to write out my submission. Cool. Starting with cover letter. And let's see what happens here. Here's a draft of your cover letter. So it's starting off. This is the contracting specialist, Department of Veteran Affairs, Network Contracting Office. Okay, wonderful. We have a well-structured letter format. You can put your company letterhead and the date. Subject, response to sources sought. We have the number there. Lebanon VAMC Ground Ambulance Services. Okay, what do we have here? Dear Miss, not too good with pronouncing that, but South Central Emergency Medical Services INC is pleased to submit our response to the sources sought for Lebanon VAMC Ground Ambulance Services. As a trusted provider of emergency medical transportation in South Central Pennsylvania region, we bring extensive experience, qualified personnel, and a proven track record in delivering basic support, advanced life support, and wheelchair support services. Okay, so as you can see, just off the bat, cover letter is reading well. It's reading well. This is a good draft. Our team is uniquely positioned to meet the requirements outlined in the notice. We have the resource, personnel, technology, and ensure continuous, high quality transportation services 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And if you remember, this was one of the things that they were actually looking for. They needed a 24-hour service for about 4 years. So you can see that ChatGPT already begins to weave in the information from the sources sought into your cover letter. But let's take it a step further. Let's go to the capability statement. Now move on to the capability statement. Now, guys, remember what I'm doing here is I'm sort of freestyling using a couple of prompts to build out what may be a good enough submission, just to show you that, in the space of 1 hour, we can get into a sources sought, we can review and understand what you're looking for, and actually begin the process of writing out a submission that we can put together because this is, again, a research or the research phase right before it becomes a solicitation. But let's see this. We have two responses, and let me clarify what's going on here. When you have response one and response two, ChatGPT is training. If I happen to select response one, when I give ChatGPT a prompt that is similar to this prompt over here, maybe move on to the capability statement, what would happen is that ChatGPT would use this same format because I chose this format. And same will go for response two. So when you see your ChatGPT giving you two responses, it's training. Whatever you select is what ChatGPT is going to use in the future when you give it a similar prompt. I hope this comes in clear. Does that come in clear? Just let me know in the chat. When you see response one and two, it means that ChatGPT is currently in training. So let me know if that comes in clear in the chat. Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Now, Let's look at these two capability statements. I'm seeing South Central Emergency Medical Services has been a leading provider of emergency and non emergency medical transportation services in South Central Pennsylvania. And then they put the year of establishment. Let's see how this one differs. South Central Medical Emergency Medical Services INC is a leading provider of high quality emergency and non-emergency medical transportation services based in South Central Pennsylvania with a strong history. Okay, I'm going to go with response two. I'm just going to say I prefer this response. But guys, check this out. With with what we have here, we have a capability statement. We have a cover letter that talks about your company briefly, capability statement. But what was the next on this? They wanted technical approach, plan to meet services requirements, including emergent and non emergent transportation. So move on to technical. Now, let me just say this very quickly while ChatGPT is generating the technical. If you notice what I did here, I am building out this submission part by part. I could have said, hey, ChatGPT, write out the entire sources sought from start to finish. And what we're going to get is a response that lacks detail. I'm going part by part. What we see is that as each aspect of our submission. So now we have a technical overview. South Central Emergency Medical Services is committed to delivering reliable, patient-centered medical transportation services tailored to the unique needs of the VA Pittsburgh healthcare system and its beneficiaries. Our technical approach ensures compliance with all requirements outlined in the PWS and guarantees continuous high quality services. Okay, so service availability, we operate 24 hours and 7 days a week, including all federal holidays. This ensures seamless support. Now, guys, let's just revisit something here. If you're planning on submitting the sources sought in an industry that you are not familiar with, you can go out and talk to industry experts about a contract like this and what it will take for them to fulfill such a contract and gather that information and add it to your technical approach. And I'm going to give you an example. I'm just going to throw out something crazy there. Let's say I called a company, they told me, hey, one of the ways that we're able to attend to our clients on a 24-hour basis is because we actually have something called a 360 shift rotation that allows us to always have staff on shift, for example. So I'm going to put it here. Also add that our company has something called a 360 shift system that allows us to serve our clients around the clock. Why I'm doing this is because I want you to see that you don't always just have to take what ChatGPT gives you. You can go out and do research, come back in and add it to ChatGPT. This skill helps you to build out a fully customized submission. I don't care if it's an RFP, if it's an RFI, RFQ. I want you to know that ChatGPT has the power, but you are the driver of the power. And for you to drive the power, you need to learn how to prompt ChatGPT in the direction you want it to go. So, what we have here now, we talked about this 360 shift system, and check it out. Check it out. We have something here. It says our innovative scheduling framework ensures continuous service delivery. This system enables seamless staff rotation and resource allocation, allowing us to serve clients around the clock without interruption. This is one of those very important markers that you could have in building your response. But guys, I've been doing a lot of talking, and I've actually come to the end of this presentation. Uh, this is how you can begin to submit sources sought documents or submissions that are of high quality. That's what I have for you today, guys. We just rounded up our 3 day challenge. It was phenomenal. And right now, a quick announcement is our inner circle. This is going to be the last month that our inner circle is going to be at $197. But I'm feeling very generous today for anybody who is actually interested in getting into the inner circle. Today, I'm going to give you a link. The inner circle is going to be $125, but this is the last month that the inner circle is actually going to be priced at $197. From January 1st, the price will be going up to $249. But today, for only the people in this stream who are interested in being in the inner circle, I've just dropped the price to $125, and I'm going to drop the link in the chat for anybody who is interested. I'm going to leave it this way until 12 a.m. today. The inner circle, good question to me. I can show you right here, actually. Okay, guys, this is the inner circle. Who is looking to have the systems, to have access to the systems on how to select industry keywords, on how to break down government solicitations, find subcontractors, write proposals, and you want to have access to all our discussions, this is where you want to be. Guys, the biggest value in this group is not really the course, it's the people in the group. Everyone in this group is currently bidding on government contracts. Excuse me. Everyone in the group is currently bidding on government contracts, and we have a great community going on here. So for anybody who wants to be part of the inner circle, please feel free. Today, for everyone who joined this live stream, just because of the level of participation, the level of energy, I believe that there are some inner circle members in here. It's $125 until 12 a.m. today. But guys, with that being said, I think we had a fantastic live stream. It's not a one-time charge, it is a monthly charge, Michael. So let's just confirm that. It's a monthly charge to have access to the community and to have access to the resources. And by the way the course is scheduled out is actionable. It's not a bunch of talking. It's actionable. How you can have the skills to do exactly what I just did right now. That is the inner circle link. But guys, I want to call it a night. It was fantastic talking to you today. If you learned something cool in this particular live stream, can you just throw a one in the chat? Give me some encouragement. Let me know that you learned something about sources sought today. Just throw a one in the chat. All right, guys. With that being said, I'm going to call it a night. Have a great night, guys, and see you on our next Tuesday live stream. Bye bye.